B'ezrat Hashem, what is the big deal about tonight? Up till now, no music, no weddings, no shaving, no, then you can't play your guitar. And all of a sudden comes one night and everything turns topsy-turvy. There's happy, and there's weddings, and there's simchot, there's smachot. What's the difference? When Yaakov Avinu came to Mitzrayim, and there was famine on Yisrael, and Yosef found out that the viceroy of Egypt was really his son Yosef, his long-lost son Yosef, and he comes down to Egypt, and Pharaoh, he was very happy because in the beginning they thought that Yosef was a slave, but now they see Yosef was the son of a king. This is not just the viceroy, for sure, the son of a king. So he wants to meet who this king of Israel is. Yaakov Avinu, our holy father Yaakov. So they bring this old man. He sees Yaakov is a very old man. And Pharaoh asks him, how old are you? He says, I'm 130 years old. He says, I've had 130 difficult years. Well, it might sound to someone like Yaakov Avinu was complaining, but Yaakov Avinu is just reporting something very objective. What he had his problems with Esav, and his problem with Dinah, and he had a problem with Lavan, and every single day, Yaakov Avinu says, in the winter he suffered cold nights, and in the summer, horrendous difficult life. Now he comes down, it looks like it's bad. It looks like it's leaving Israel. But we know in Emunah, Yaakov Avinu teaches us, and it comes out, this is the light of Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai. What's that bonfire we lit tonight? We went around the bonfire, and it's light, and it's warmth. We got close to the bonfire, we feel warm. This is the warmth of Emunah. This is the light of Emunah. And this is what the Arizal tells us in the memory of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai before we have every festive meal. Atkinu Sudah Memnuta. We're now having a Sudah of Emunah. Tonight is a night of Emunah. So Paro tells Yaakov Avinu, he said 130 years. Then what happens? Yaakov Avinu is now, he's got his son Levi and his son Yehuda, and they make a koilel in Goshen, and Am Yisrael is multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. And he's got children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. How long did Yaakov Avinu live until? 147. He had 17 years in Egypt. 17 is Gematria Tov. So we have now 33 days, tough. We have 17 more days until Kabbalat Torah. This is the Simcha of Am Yisrael. These 17 days, and this also turns around. When does the 17 days begin? On Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai's yahrtzeit. What do we learn by Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai? When Kvod Rav spoke before, he mentioned something I had in mind to mention, Baruch Hashem, but pre-reveal. With real Torah gives birth to the Torah. Kvod Rav told a story about the Orach Chaim HaKadosh when finally went to Israel, and with such trembling with Kedusha, he crawled all the way up on the mountains. The students of the Orach Chaim say, if that mountain were paved with knives, the Orach Chaim would have crawled up on knives, a road paved with knives to get to Rabbi Shimon. Who was that Orach Chaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar? He was the leader of the entire generation in Nusei Shamayim. He was in Morocco, and the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, is the Orach Chaim for the Ashkenazim. He was in the Ukraine now, where the war is going on. And it was Shabbat in the afternoon, the time of Sudah Shlishit, and in the middle of Baal Shem Tov, you don't cry on Shabbat. He had a tear coming down his eyes. They said, Rebbe, what's the matter? The Rebbe should have a tear on Shabbat. The Rebbe's always so happy on Shabbat. And he said, the lights of the West have just been extinguished. What do you mean the lights of the West? Then Morocco was referred to Ma'ab, but then Morocco was the West because it's west of Eretz Yisrael. For the West, it's the west before you get to the Mediterranean. And then all the importance was Europe and North Africa. He says the lights was, how did the Baal Shem Tov know that? At that time, on Shabbat in the afternoon, he got the secret of the mikvah. The secret power, what happens to a person when they go in mikvah. There's only one person in a generation that knows this secret. And he got the secret. He knew that if as great as he was, the Orach Chaim HaKadosh was greater. But he says, if Shamayim, they're giving him the secret, then the Orach Chaim HaKadosh must not be here anymore. And they found out by the time the word came, and by the courier, there was no telegraph there. It came Tuesday afternoon that the word came, someone came across the Mediterranean. Tuesday afternoon, they found out that the Or HaChaim is no longer with us. Baal Shem Tov, he felt this. This is the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. This is the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, that he felt this Kedusha. The higher a level person is, they could feel the holiness. And what's the holiness? Somebody might ask a question. Okay, it looked like Yaakov Avinu is happy with coming down to Egypt. That's bad. But we learn, he says, 12 years. And it looks like Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai. Bad, the Romans chased him. They wanted to kill him. How did he get, when he did the Zohar, Hashem gave the light of the Zohar? He was in a cave for 13 years with his son, Elazar. And they learned Torah in a cave. And he came out of the cave, and he was so dry, they didn't have clothes to wear. So what they would do, you can't learn Torah without clothes. They would cover themselves in sand. They would dig a pit, and there was sand up to their neck. The only thing outside was their faces, Rebbe Shimon, Rebbe Lazer. So when they finally came out, when they heard a bat kol came, Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai could understand the words of the animals, the words of birds. Two birds came that said that Caesar died, and there's a new Caesar, and they're not hunting him anymore. They were hunting Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai. Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai was so strong, we're not going to listen to Romans. They're going to do that. The Romans wanted to stop Torah. No way. No way. And they chased him. They chased him all over, and they finally hid in this cave. He came out of the cave. His whole skin had these tremendous deep rivulets in it. If you ever had a little cut, and you have salt water in a cut, ooh, does it burn. This was Rebbe Shimon's whole body. His father-in-law, who was a Kadosh, Rebbe Shimon's father-in-law, Rebbe Pinchas ben Iyar, he was the father-in-law of Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai. He came and he cried. And he cried, and one of his tears, it stung Rebbe Shimon. He says, Oy vavoy, I should see you in such suffering. He says, Oy vavoy, Baruch Hashem, you should see me in such suffering. Such suffering for Hashem? Such suffering for Hashem? This all suffering, where did he get this from? Where did Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai get this Amunah from? You know who his teacher was? Rebbe Akiva. Do you know why we had Sfirat Omer, first 33 days? Rebbe Akiva's 24,000 students died. Why did they die? They didn't properly respect one another. So wait a second, hold it. Time out the field. The countries and the government, they know if someone does something really bad, treason, high treason, and not every country has capital punishment. Capital punishment means death penalty. No, they argue back and forth. In Israel, there's a big argument now. If the worst terrorists that killed whole families, whether to kill them or not to kill them, capital punishment, not capital punishment. And we see Rebbe Akiva's 24,000 students, they got killed for what? Not properly respecting one another. They properly respect one another. She said, what's the big deal? They were holy Tanoim. They knew that Rebbe Akiva, Hashem knows, Rebbe Akiva is the greatest thing since Moshe Rabbeinu. Rebbe Akiva brought down the oral Torah. He codified the Mishnah, which later became the Gemara, which later became Rambam, Shulchan Aruch. It all started from Rebbe Akiva. But you can't have Torah if you don't respect one another. They all died. So now Rebbe Akiva has 5 new students. You know what's 5 new students? Instead of 24,000, it's 24,000. But Rebbe Akiva is 100 years old. His students died. Can you imagine if you got your life's work? You built a big institution, you built a yeshiva, you built a great company. And when you're 100 years old, you want to give the company to your son, your grandsons, your great-grandsons, and the company goes bankrupt? You say, my whole life work down the drain? Rebbe Akiva could have said his whole life work down the drain. No. With emunah, he started brand new, made a new start at 100. And this new start, what does this new start bring? Rebbe Meir Balanis, that was one of the students. Rebbe Yehuda Bar Elai, that was another one. Rebbe Lazer ben Shemor, that was another one. Rebbe Yossi ben Chalaftin, another one. But number 5 was Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai. And Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai took the light of Emunah from Rebbe Akiva. And when we light the fire, in honor of Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai, we light the fire of Emunah in our hearts. This is the power of Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, where does the Emunah come from? You know, there's a halacha in Torah, very important halacha. And it's something that invokes such divine. You think with the Chofetz Chaim, the greatest rabbi of the last 100 years, and the Chofetz Chaim could have written about laws of kashrut, and these laws, no, he wrote about Lashon Hara, wrote a book, the Chofetz Chaim. Everything Chofetz Chaim, since Chofetz Chaim, think we're talking about evil talk. Chofetz Chaim. Why did he do that? Because he knew how important one bit of Lashon Hara, there's 31 mitzvot involved in it. 14 positive mitzvahs, 17 negative mitzvahs. You knew how important it is for every one of us to love one another, because any type of Lashon Hara, it's a breach of V'ahavta le'echa kamocha, and it's a breach of emunah. You can't love another Jew if you don't have emunah. See, what's the question of love another Jew and have emunah? You believe we say Avinu Shebashamayim. Avinu B'Shamayim. Rabbi Akiva, he made a prayer when the great rabbis. Rabbi Akiva was a Baal Tshuva. He was a son of righteous converts. Akiva ben Yosef Agel. And all they prayed, there was no rain in Eretz Yisrael, and the greatest rabbis prayed for rain. And Rabbi Akiva says, Avinu Malkeinu, my Father in heaven, give us rain. This opened up the sky. And this is the power of Rabbi Akiva's emunah. When Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara Tractate Brachot tells us that Rabbi Akiva was dying. It was Erev Yom Kippur. And we read about this on Tisha B'Av. And the Romans made this excruciating torture. And while they were torturing, he said, Shema Yisrael, and he had a smile on his face. The students are yelling, Rabbi, how can you smile? He says, I waited my whole life for this moment of emunah. He waited for it, and the Shem's going to give it to it or not. This was Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai's teacher. Rebbe Shimon's whole life was devoted to what she was great, bringing down the secrets of Shemayim, the Holy Zohar. But Rebbe Akiva, we see all through the Gemara, when other Chachamim, they're machmir, he is makel. I'll give you an example. There's a halacha, if girls can wear perfume on Shabbat, it's called Shemen Afal Simon. And then the Chachamim say, no, this is only for a rich girl. Because a regular girl, a poor girl, they can't have. This is only for a daughter of a king. Only a daughter of a king can wear this fancy perfume. Shemen Afal Simon, the oil of persimmon. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says everybody Israel is a daughter of a king. Kol b'nai Yisrael, kulam, Yisrael b'nai malachim hen. Yisrael b'nai malachim hen. But we see that in halachot, the many halachot, where I don't want to go into a particular halachot, in Muksa, where they said you drag a chair, and the chair puts a crease in the sand. If you don't have a paved floor, you can do it. You can't do it. Rabbi Shimon said, nah, it's no problem. You didn't intend to do it. Many times there's chomer, Rabbi Shimon's mekil. But now when you come to Nistar, when you come to holiness, Rabbi Shimon is the biggest machmir, because holiness is the neshama. And in the neshama, two things have to happen. The emunah comes from the neshama, and loving another Jew comes from the neshama. Why, if you look at a body, guy looks at a body, this guy is, this, even I remember there's a joke here in Great Neck. In Great Neck, they have the Iranian community. But in Great Neck, they're mostly Mashadim. And I go to Los Angeles, and they're mostly Teheranim. And they have a joke amongst the Iranians. You know what intermarriage is? When a Teherani marries a Mashadi. They're both Iranian. They're both. What's the differentiate? Jews differentiate from one another. To have a munah, you can't look at bodies. This is Teherani, this is Mashadi, this is Bukhari, this is Irani, this is Ashkenazi, this is Sfardi, this is religiousness, not religious. Back in Israel, it's crazy now. When do I have Mashiach? The right against the left, the rich, the left, the left. That's it. Oh, Hashem. I got one political party. Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Echad. Hashem Echad, U'Shmo Echad. And we say, Mi Ke'amcha Yisrael, Goy Echad Ba'aretz. We're Goy Echad. We're one nation. We have one nation. How can we feel we're one nation? You look at this one, this one's here, this one's this, got this opinion, that's opinion. If you look at his neshama, that's your brother, that's your sister. And that's because Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai tells us in chapter, in Breshit, the first chapter of the Zohar, he says that the neshama is chelek elok mima'al. Wow. You know what your neshama is? It's a tiny bit of Hashem. Every single Jew in this room is walking around with a tiny microchip, a spiritual microchip that's different between a live person and a person, Bar Minan, Chas v'Shalom, is that divine spark. And when Hashem wants a person up in Shemayim, he takes the divine spark up in Shemayim, and the shell, which just stays here. Can you imagine, go to Kennedy Airport, and he says, great big 737, but there's a problem. It's got these big wings and this big fuselage. No engine. Can you get off the ground? You take a body without a neshama, it's not going anywhere. What takes our prayers up is not our arms and our feet and our hands, and we dance and sing, but it's the neshama. And where Ahavat Yisrael comes from, a person cannot have Ahavat Yisrael if he or she looks at bodies. You have to look at neshama. Look past the body. Look at the smile of that other Jew, the good word. And you smile at another Jew, you're going to smile back. It's automatic. The most contagious, not contagious disease. Rashi says that a good measure is 500 times more powerful than measure. So if a person frowns and someone feels insulted, when you smile, you make the person feel 500 times better. And how can you smile at another person? You're colorblind. You don't see Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Bukhari, Kafkazi. You don't see this. You see the neshama. That's what Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai teaches us. And you love the other person. And the power, this is the power, what Kvod Rav explained, the power of Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai for the people that don't have kids. For people that need refuah, have refuah. And as I'm saying this, anyone should need refuah, they should have refuah shlema. And everyone needs children, they've had children. Everyone needs good shidduchim for the children, wonderful shidduchim. And everyone that needs fantastic parnasah, be able to marry all your kids with keys to apartments in Eretz Yisrael and no debt. Our hearts wishes for the best. When we love every other Jew, that's v'ahavta l'recha kamochas. That's what Rabbi Kiva. And this is what Rabbi Shimon says, Kol Yisrael b'nei Melachim. He says they're all the sons of Melachim. It's just not something nice. According to the Zohar, it's the real thing. Okay, so my physical DNA, I got the DNA, they checked my chromosome chart, and they get, okay, the DNA of my mom, the DNA of my dad, may they rest in peace. But if someone would check the spiritual DNA of my neshama, it's from Hashem. It's Hashem, it's divine. And if we had a stethoscope that could hear the neshama, it's the neshama that's making our heartbeat. People say, where's Hashem? Hashem's right there making my heartbeat. If I would put a stethoscope to my heart, it would sound like this. Yud-K, Vav-K, Yud-K, Vav-K, Yud-K, Vav-K. That's Hashem in the heart. That's right. That's Hashem. He's right there with us. So that's the Yud-K, Vav-K in me, and the Yud-K, Vav-K in you, and that's Yud-K, Vav-K. We're seeing each other, and right away, that's my brother, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my sister. And it's the most beautiful mitzvah. That's Rebbe Shimon. And this has, when you have Avat Yisrael, wow, got lots of mothers and fathers here. Let me ask you, mom and dad, what makes you happier than anything? Imagine you come home, you don't know that you got Moishele is in the 4th grade. Moishele can't understand his math homework. He's not asking anybody. Sola, she's already in 8th grade. So we come home and you see Sola sitting at the table with Moshe, teaching him his math. Mom, do you feel so great? Look at my kids. It's like one helping the other. Or your kids are already married, and one of your kids had a difficulty. And you go to visit one of your kids, and the other one is there is helping them. They got a leak in the roof, and they're helping repair. Look, wouldn't it be so good? The way they help each other, they're with each other. Okay, how do you feel when your kids are fighting? Does anything get on your nerves more than when your kids are fighting? Well, just know that Hashem is a more loving parent than any of us, and Hashem doesn't have nachat when we fight. The power of Lag BaOmer, when we're together with the flame of Rebbe Shimon, the flame of Emunah, is the power for refuah. People say, well, I see people are still sick. Somebody had a kasha on Lag BaOmer. True story. Family goes up, and they have a brand new SUV. Let's say for the family vehicle, what the Barshit? I know in Israel they call it SUV, but the utility vehicle, it's like a family, we used to call it when I was a kid, a station wagon. Hey, it's that Mitsubishi. Yeah, van, okay, good. And they go up to Miron, they live in Beit Shemesh, family from Beit Shemesh, Ramat Beit Shemesh, they go up to Miron. And they go to there, they go to Rabbi Shimon, Hadlaka, and they're on the way back. And a truck runs them off the road, and the car flips twice, but Baruch Hashem, the airbags, they could, the airbags safe. There was a mother, father, and 5 sons. The mother and the father, they come out with a scratch. Son number 1, no scratch. Son number 2, fine. Son number 3, son number 4, Son number 5, 7 years old. He's unconscious. So right away, take him to the hospital, this and that. And they see, check him out, they think he's got a concussion. So they do a CAT scan. What do they find when they do a CAT scan on his brain? They find a malignant tumor. They would have never found that. This little boy, he didn't complain about anything. He didn't feel anything. The neurologist said, had they not found that tumor, in a matter of 2 weeks, that little boy would have started having excruciating pain. Because that tumor, it was still small, it would have been growing till it crushed the brain. In a matter of 4 weeks, that little boy would have been blind. In a matter of chas v'sholom, 6 to 8 weeks, he'd be on a eagle's wing to the olam haba. But look at this, this is what we learned from Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai, the light of emunah. Sometimes a seeming difficult. This is Yaakov Avinu. He's not complaining when he says 130 years. This is not Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai when he comes out after 13 years. And then they come off to 17, then 17. This is the power of the 17 days that we now have the zchut of Rashti, and then we receive Torah. But sometimes before we get something really, really good, there is a difficulty, and this difficulty is a test of Amunah. But one thing Rabbi Akiva taught us, Kol Maide Rachmana Tavid Avid L'Tav Avid, that everything Hashem does is for the best. People say, what's a car total loss? Brand new car costs, I don't know, American prices cost under $50,000. And in Israel, you buy a car in Israel, you get together, you pay taxes and buy a Jeep for the army. It's not like the prices in here. It's like double the price. Pay big taxes. And the car is totaled. What's that little boy's life? An operation. They had brain surgery, successfully took the tumor out. Also a miraculous thing. Little boy, I said this story in Beit Shemesh. So a woman comes up with a 14-year-old boy. She says, I'm the mother. Rabbi, in case you get up, she says, if anybody thinks the story's not true, I'm the mother. And this is the boy. It was already 7 years later. Ben Polat Yosef, the light of Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai, it is the light of emunah. It is the light that fires our souls. It's the light that ignites our souls. What is the power of emunah? The power of emunah is our own connection with the Rebbe Shalom and our own connection with each other. Because once again, if we don't have emunah, that we're all the sons and daughters of Hashem, we have the same Father in heaven, then we can't believe we're brothers and sisters. The moment we know that we're Am Yisrael, Am Echad, B'Lev Echad, and that's why we got Torah. This is the one time where Am Yisrael didn't have Machloket on Har Sinai, Am Echad, B'Lev Echad, we're together. Holy brothers and sisters, I love Briarwood. I love the Bukhari community. I get an honorary Bukhari certificate. I love this kila. One of the most mikam Yisrael. If Am Yisrael is wonderful, that the kila Bukhari, no words. But ask one thing. Some people say, oh, do this mitzvah, and you take a Kabbalah that you can learn Torah. You go there. I asked one Kabbalah, B'schut Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that no one in this community should say something bad about anyone else in this community. Let's start with the community. Let's start that Briarwood should see Avas Yisrael. And you know what's going to happen when Briarwood has Avas Yisrael? It's going to spread to all of Queens. Then it's going to spread to New York. The Jews in New York, what's the percentage of Jews in the United States that in New York? Maybe New York is at least African American Jewry, okay? And it's good, and it'll spread all over. By this, Avat Yisrael in this community, it just starts, we light the spark, we just lit the bonfire, like the same spark of emunah, that we're all brothers and sisters. And we're not going to say anything bad about a brother or sister because it makes our Father in heaven sad. And by this spark lit here, and we'll have achdut here, we'll be together here, it'll be all of Am Yisrael. This fire will spread to all of Am Yisrael, and Hashem will bring us Mashiach Tzidkenu, and our holy base of Mikdash be in our days. Omer.